literally bring them back in time and prove them that real guts.
Appreciate it, man.
The real people really know what's going on, and I think that's your target audience. And I just want to say thank you. So I'll let you go on your way, but I really appreciate you, brother.
All right, appreciate it, man. All right, so guys, we are debating whether or not Israel is an apartheid state. I am offering $100 to anybody who can prove that it is an apartheid state. So we're live on TikTok right now. That's going to be our funnel of people to debate. They're going to come up in my live stream. We've got 213 people watching there. And yeah, we're going to have a conversation with some people. So make sure to send some roses and like the live, guys. Roses not because I want the money. They're only worth a couple cents, but rather because they help stimulate the live. They help the live perform better. So shoot some roses over if you've got any coins sitting around. Thank you so much, Lolly, for the roses. Like the live, double tap that screen. Let's get it pushed into the feed, and let's get some people to argue with, guys. $100 if you can prove that Israel's an apartheid. Please only request to come up if you are anti-Israel. If not, I'm sorry, but I'll have to kick you. Hello, are you anti-Israel?
Hey, what's up, man? What am I proving here? I couldn't understand that.
Are you
what?
Apartheid?
Apartheid. What's the definition to that? You don't mind me asking?
Yeah, apartheid is going to be a system of racial segregation and domination that, in my opinion, is going to have characteristic similarities to apartheid South Africa.
Are you for Israel, boss?
Yeah, I am. I support Israel.
You know, I live in the U.S. and I realize the majority of the population is for Gaza.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not. Yeah. No problem. I'm not for either.
Okay. Next person. Thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you so much for helping the live do better.
Yo, God bless. How are you today?
Hello. Are you anti-Israel?
Yes.
Okay, great.
My name is Christian Wilfanua. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, of course. Why are you anti-Israel?
Because I don't believe in the Jewish nation.
Okay, why?
I live in a country that believes that all religions are equal.
Yeah, so does Israel.
Okay, I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah, so Israel, since the moment of its inception, has granted equality to all people. You can see this in their Declaration of Independence. The only additional right that Jewish people have, and it's not because of their religion, it's because of their ethnicity and the oppression they face in Europe, is that Jewish people can immigrate to Israel easier than other groups of people. And the reason for that is the immigration laws are actually based on the Nuremberg laws. So the Nuremberg laws in Germany, Nazi Germany, defined anybody of having at least one Jewish grandparent as being a Jew. And the Jewish state essentially said, if you're Jewish enough for the Nazis to kill you, you're Jewish enough to be an Israeli citizen. And so...
Understood.
So that's how they established
it. May I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
I reside in the state of Hawaii.
Okay.
What does the state of Israel believe about the Hawaiian and Polynesian people?
I don't know that they have a specific opinion on the Polynesian people. Why?
Oh, I was just asking. My logic in asking that question is, what about Polynesians that have no ties to Jewishness at all?
What do you mean? What about it?
Like, am I going to be welcome there?
You can apply to immigrate to Israel.
I can't be. I'm not. I can never be Jewish.
You can't be Jewish if you're not Jewish. No, in the same way that you can't be black if you're not black.
Well, I'm not trying to argue. But I'm trying to get the understanding is, does that mean that I do not have the opportunity to become Jewish?
It means you're not going to have
a nation of Israel?
Yeah, you're not going to become Jewish.
Not arguing, just asking questions.
Israeli citizenship does not make you Jewish. You can be a citizen of Israel and not be Jewish, right? Just because you live in Israel and are a citizen does not mean that you're Jewish per se. It means you're Israeli, not Jewish, right? So you're not going to magically become Jewish if you live in Israel.
Understood. May I ask a question about that again then? And that question would be, is it okay, you're saying it's okay to not be Jewish, but be a part of Israel. If you are Jewish, can you automatically become a part of Israel?
It's not like automatic, but it's all you have to do is like apply for it, and you're pretty much like, there's pretty close to zero chance that you're not going to get it if you have at least one Jewish grandparent.
Okay, so I just feel like that's what's the problem I can't support is like it's something that you're telling me is constitutionally available for anyone.
No, they don't. Israel doesn't have a constitution.
Just like this jump.
Israel doesn't have a constitution, so no, it's not
okay. What do they have that? Excuse me, I'm sorry. What do they have to dictate that everyone is equal?
Yeah, they have like common laws, and they
Is
have
it
the
just based
Declaration of
on the
Independence.
numbers?
Yeah, the Declaration of Independence specifically
Declaration.
affirms that everyone's equal.
So that's where I have an issue with to compare to the country I live in, the
So
United
the only
States.
reason that
We do
their immigration law is a little bit different is because the entire reason that Israel was established as a state was because Europe was like flagrantly
because
anti-Semitic
of
and actively
the
murdering Jewish
Holocaust,
people.
correct?
No, not because of the Holocaust. There
No.
were plenty of other things like
Well,
in the 1800s, Jews weren't allowed to practice medicine or law in Europe.
I
They were
believe in the
put in
Holocaust
ghettos.
just as a contextual thing, so I believe in it.
Okay. So anyway,
Um,
like in the 1800s, Jews weren't allowed to practice medicine or law in Europe. They were, like in Russia, only allowed to live in Odessa. They were segregated.
segregated.
They were thrown in ghettos, and they were also killed in situations like pogroms, where the police would just stand by while Jews were like actively murdered in the streets and eviscerated and torn apart to
I
shreds.
agree.
So
And
they
this
had
is
to
a
go
horrible
somewhere.
time in history.
Yeah, so they had to go somewhere. There had to be a place for them
May I
to seek
ask
refuge.
and expand on what you're talking about?
Sure.
I thought it was interesting that you bring up the real contextual history of what the Jews experienced throughout Europe. I think there are a lot of similarities in the early 50s, early 60s, late 50s about similar experiences where Jews in the Europe were feeling this in this area where they used to call Palestine, now Israel. Um, so I would just like to highlight that in this case, history may feel like it's repeating itself in that
Wait, what do you mean?
sense.
You're saying
where
that
they-
Jews are treating Arabs in the same way that they were treated in Europe?
No, I never said that.
Okay,
I did
I
not
was
say
just
that.
clarifying. So what are you saying then?
Okay. So I'm speaking about during the time of 1961 in Israel, where maybe I shouldn't speak on it because I don't know exactly. Then never mind.
Okay.
But I do believe that there might be some similar comparisons on what Jews may have felt and experienced in the time frame during Europe and what may non-Israelis were feeling in Israel during that time.
Well,
I heard that they were
I
given
disagree.
opportunity to get. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
Well,
would just disagree because like
I
so
don't think
when,
I earned your $100, but
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to really express my feelings on it. I
No,
mean,
you're
it's
good.
not
Yeah.
that I have a problem with Jewish people or anything like that. I just felt like as a Polynesian person myself, like I don't think that our people throughout history could be really recognized similar to the people like the Jews and the Gentiles. You know, I can imagine that Jesus was on a cross and Polynesians were just chilling in Polynesia. So like I feel like there's like this separation where they bring into this religion, which I have no problem with.
well, it has nothing to do
but
with
you can see a
religion.
divide.
Like, Zionists were not religious. Like actually, one of their biggest obstacles was ultra-Orthodox religious Jews because they didn't support Zionism because they didn't agree with returning to the Holy Land before the period of the Messiah. So
But
Zionists
they're based
were
off of a
no,
religion
it's an
thought or no?
it's an ethno religion. No, so early Zionists, the people who first immigrated to Israel during the mid 1800s through the halfway through the 20th century, these people were non-religious Jews. They were people who actually
So-
believed in leaving religion behind them because they thought it weakened them.
But
they
they
believed in
believe-
creating a new Jew.
Do they believe is my question that they have a right to the land because
No,
God
that's
gave
not
it to them?
that's not what they went. No, absolutely not. That's not why Zionists went to this land. Right? They didn't go there because they believed that God gave them a right to this land. They didn't believe in God. They were secular Jews. They believed in creating a new Jew and leaving religion behind because they believed that their religious principles and abiding by the Torah made them weak and subjected to European tensions and anti-Semitism. So they were secular Jews, which is why religious Jews, both inside of Israel and outside of Israel, posed the biggest threat and challenge to Zionists at the time because they didn't support what they were doing. They moved there because they were facing annihilation in Russia, in Germany, in Poland.
They chose that location, no?
Well,
Out
no,
of
not
the
necessarily.
options.
I mean, what options were there? They either go to Europe and have this happen to them, or they go somewhere in the Middle East and
I
have the
was
same thing
thinking
happen to them.
after-
But this isn't like, it's not like all the Jews just got on a ship and moved to Poland, right? There were also Jews in Arab countries. In the Middle East, you saw a mass immigration after 1967, or sorry, after 1948, when Israel established its state and all of the Arab countries kicked them out. Lots of Jews went to Europe and elsewhere. Like Jews went all over in the various periods that they were kicked out of their homeland.
Right.
It's not something they chose to go
Where
wherever
else
they
could they
went. It's
go?
that they didn't have anywhere else to go. Exactly. And also, like, there were points in period in Europe where they weren't treated terribly, but then it happened. Like Spain, they had the Inquisition. They kicked them all out in 1942, or sorry, not 1942, 1492. You had them kicked out of like Italy in the 1200s. So yeah,
I think that there is a lot of kicking out, and I hear often the argument of maybe the thing they say is, why do they kick them out of everywhere? Why do they get kicked out of everywhere? Can you expand on what issues they were experiencing? Is there a tale of anti-Semitism because the death of Jesus, or is it something else?
Well, it depends. So early on, yeah. Early on in Europe, the first wave of anti-Semitism was based on the death of Jesus. They blamed the Jews for the death of Jesus, even though it was the Romans that did it. And
Well, in the Bible it says it was the Jews, though, right? The Jews played a part
sure,
with the Romans.
the people who did it might have been Jews, right?
Okay, understood.
But that doesn't change. Like Jesus himself was a Jew, so if you're gonna blame, it wouldn't make sense at all to blame. It wouldn't make sense at all for Europeans to blame the death of Jesus on Jews, but not blame everything Jesus ever did on the Jews, right? Because Jesus himself was a Jewish person. He lived as a Jewish person. He was born as a Jewish person, and he died as a Jewish person. He never
I don't
practiced.
100% agree with that only because I never read that in the Bible.
He never practiced Christianity. He put Christianity in other people's heads.
Yeah.
They invented it. He taught it, the teachings, his own personal teachings or whatever. But he died a Jew. Okay, so it wouldn't make sense to blame Jews for the death of Jesus, but not blame the Jews for Jesus, right? It doesn't make any sense. But regardless, that is where like the earliest anti-Semitism in Europe like stemmed from, right? There was also like territorial anti-Semitism in the Middle East, but then eventually there became like more nefarious anti-Semitism. Like the Europeans started saying, "Hey, we keep like screwing these people up. We keep disrupting them, and they keep just getting rich again. Like they must be like ruling the world." And then it became like the Jews control everything kind of narrative.
May I ask a question?
What?
Did they create usury?
Did they create what?
Did they invent usury?
Usury? What are you talking about?
Is it usury or usury?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The concept of interest.
I have no idea if Jews invented the concept of interest, nor do I think it matters. I think the interest is a good concept.
Well, the reason I ask is I believe that they did. And to think about what interest does to you and I, credit cards, lifestyle, contracts and agreements.
Yeah,
it's a concept just like a variable. It's like it doesn't really exist until someone said it existed.
Yeah, but do you know why it exists? Like, why does interest exist? Because your money inflates, right? So if I loan you $1 and you have to pay that dollar back over a 10-year period, that dollar is not going to be worth the same in 10 years that it was worth when I gave it to you, and thus I lose money in that agreement. So like interest is like a natural evolution of like having money.
I live in Hawaii. Again, the Polynesian concept I'd like to bring up is the inflation of your stomach and what you can eat from the land doesn't change like money. But the concept of interest for food doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
Well, yeah.
It's not that.
What do you mean interest
You
for
give
food? What are
me
you talking about?
1 taro, but that's the aspect of usury is a basis of all types of retail or trade.
You don't pay interest when you buy food. You only
Everyone
pay
pays
interest if
when
you
they buy food every time.
No, they don't. You only pay interest if you take a loan. You don't get interest on food.
Exactly.
They don't. You
Exactly.
don't buy food over like a several year period or anything like that.
Okay, understood. I'd just like to expand that. Like, that was a concept that today just breaks my mind, how I can pay interest on simple things, and the whole concept of interest comes from Jewish people.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I'm gonna let somebody else up. Sounds like you might just have some inner conflicts. Thank you. Anyway, yeah. I don't know that Jewish people create interest, but I don't think it matters. You don't pay interest on food because you don't buy food over a several year period. The reason that interest exists is because there's got to be some benefit for you. If you give somebody a loan, if I give you money, like, why would I just give you money if I'm not going to benefit from it? Of course, I'm going to want to, exact some kind of benefit from giving you money. And not only that, like, if I give you a certain amount of money, that money is not going to be worth the same in 10 years that it was worth when I gave it to you. So I'm going to lose money from that. So not only am I not benefiting, I'm losing. So of course, yeah. Anyway, who's next? Let's see. Common Science will let up. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Are you anti-Israel?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Because I believe that I can't use that word. Terrorists aren't allowed to defend themselves. Right? Is that the standard belief?
Okay. Why do you think that Israel are terrorists?
Because they kill about 150 children a day on average.
Yeah. Based on what? Can you prove that to me?
Can I prove it? Yeah.
Yeah. Based on what? Show me.
It's live stream.
Yeah. So you know what? There's just in the past
Nazis
couple
also
of days.
said that during the Holocaust. Prove me the Holocaust.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. So because the Nazi said prove things, that means that proving things is wrong. If you make a fucking claim, you have to prove it, dumbass. Okay. So
hey, if it's live streamed,
yeah. Right. Okay. So
watch them.
Okay. So you can say, oh, I have a video of this. I reverse image searched 3 fucking videos yesterday that were allegedly attacks on Israel from Hezbollah, and all of them were older strikes from over a year ago or from Ukraine. So even finding validated information about strikes that are currently happening on Israel is difficult. So prove to me with a verified claim from a verified source that Israel is killing 120 children per day. Prove it.
20,000 kids a day, 180.
20,000 kids a day, really?
20
over the course of 8 months, they've killed more people in Gaza than exist in Gaza? Square that one for me. 20,000 kids a day?
Hey, do you think kids need medical attention ever? They need to go to the hospital?
Yeah.
Well, they don't have soap in these hospitals.
Okay, you should be mad at
They don't have
Hamas.
soap. Do you know what that means?
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Prove to me that soap is needed for wounds.
Right. So you should be mad at Hamas because Hamas uses hospitals as military bases, not at Israel for exacting military targets or reprisal on hospitals that are being used as military bases.
Do you know that attacking hospitals is a war crime?
Did you know that using hospitals as a military base is a war crime? And when you turn a hospital into a military base, it becomes a legitimate military target.
About the tunnels that
no, I'm talking about places like I'm talking about examples like El Shifa Hospital, where 900 terror suspects were arrested inside, 500 of them confirmed members of either Hamas or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, with hundreds of rifles discovered beneath the floor and in the ceiling tiles, over 10 RPGs inside the hospital, hundreds of anti-tank grenades, hundreds of.
Are you telling me that Hamas lives in the city that they live in? That's crazy.
No, I'm telling you that they're actively stashing weapons and terrorists inside of hospitals. One of the top 10 highest-ranking members of Hamas, one of the top 10 highest-ranking officials, was killed in the maternity ward of El Shifa Hospital. How did he get there? Why was he there if he wasn't using it as a military base? That's weird, isn't it?
When Israel took over these hospitals and then there was babies in incubators, was that okay for them to leave them there?
Give me a source that says Israel raided a hospital and left babies in incubators. Prove it.
Oh my God.
Prove it.
Fine. Are you aware that Warsaw,
so you can't prove
during
it.
Nazi Germany, they also smuggled in weapons? Are you against that? Against the Jews fighting against the Nazis in Warsaw?
They weren't using hospitals as military bases.
Prove to me.
There's a difference between establishing.
Hey, prove to me that the Jews in Warsaw were not using hospitals as military bases.
I can't prove a negative. You're the one who made the claim, so you'd have to prove it to me.
Oh, you can't prove a negative then. Well, then stop doing that to me.
Wait, but I'm not the one making the claims. You're the one making the claims. I can't prove a negative that Israel didn't or Jews didn't do something. You'd have to prove to me that they did do something.
You can do your research, though, but you're not.
You can't prove a negative.
I can't help you.
I've done plenty of research. How many books have you read on this topic?
I'm reading the Palestine and the Arab-Israeli conflict right now in my hand. I checked out the library.
By who?
Charles D. Smith.
You just checked it out of the library?
A month ago, actually.
Okay,
I rechecked it out.
What books have you completed?
This is my I think this is my only book right now.
Okay, great. So you've read nothing on the conflict. You've checked out
No,
one
I'm
book and
reading-
you're going to start.
It's like a
reading it.
fucking textbook, bro.
Okay, congrats. I've read textbooks as well.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Oh, yeah.
Benny Morris's History of the Palestinian Refugee Problem Revisited is also a textbook. I'm still reading it, right? What's your point?
It's cool to see him has like.
Daniel Gordis's Israel: A Concise History of a Nation Reborn is also basically a textbook. What's your point?
I'm saying, you asked me if I'm reading a book. I told you I'm reading a book.
No,
And
I
if
asked you.
don't like
I asked you if
you
you've
don't like
read any
this book,
books.
then that's
I've
up to
asked you.
bro.
I've asked you if you've read any books, like if you've completed any, but clearly you haven't. So you're telling me that I'm uneducated, right? But you haven't completed a single book on the topic. Like what research?
I
have you
mean,
done?
if you quack like a duck and walk like a duck, then hey, maybe you're a duck. I don't know.
I mean, you're the one who hasn't provided literally any sources. You're the one who's quacking. Which are like, I don't know. What's your argument here? Make a real argument.
Yeah, talking about Warsaw uprisings.
Yeah, you claim
Nazi
that
Germany, yeah.
that they used hospitals as military bases. Prove it.
No, I didn't. That's it. No, I didn't. I said that you're gonna have to prove me that they did or not. Like, I don't care. Like,
No, I said that Hamas is using hospitals as military bases, and then you said they snuck weapons into Warsaw as well. And I said, they didn't use hospitals? And you said, well, prove that they didn't use hospitals.
how do you know they didn't use hospitals? You're the one that made the claim.
I've never seen anything that indicates that they used hospitals as military bases during in the Warsaw.
Okay, so you're trying to prove a negative because you don't know.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to prove a negative because you can't prove a negative. I can't prove that something didn't happen. My opposition would have to prove that it did happen. Now make a real argument, please, or I'm going to cycle to the next person.
Okay, yeah, the West Bank looks like exactly like with the walls and everything, apartheid Warsaw Germany. Okay, I want my $100 now.
Okay, but
Turrets line the Gaza.
yeah, it's
the
called
Gaza
it's
Strip.
border security. So first of all,
Yeah.
the people in Warsaw were previously
It's a
citizens
concentration
of,
camp, is what Gaza is.
No, they were previously citizens, and their citizenship was stripped from them. The people in the West Bank were never made citizens of Israel, and they never had territory as a state until Israel gave it to them in areas in the form of areas A and B of the West Bank. Okay, Israel has every right to
nice of
put
them.
defenses on their border. Yeah, how nice of them. I agree. Israel has every right to put defenses on their border, especially when their neighbors are actively trying to kill them. The PLO is a fucking terrorist organization that's responsible for the death of thousands of Israelis. They were notorious for hijacking airplanes and killing people. Like, of course they're going to put a border up.
Israelis don't commit terrorist acts. Ben Gvir, not part of the terrorist organization?
Israeli settlers do sometimes commit terrorist attacks, and you know what happens to them when they do that?
Sometimes.
You know what happens to them when they do that? They go to jail. The Israeli government convicts them and sends them to prison. Do you know what happens when a Palestinian commits a crime? What does their government do?
99%
Their
conviction
government
rate.
does nothing. The Palestinian
99% conviction rate. That's apartheid.
The Palestinian Authority does nothing because
What's
the Palestinian
conviction
Authority.
rate of terrorist settlers?
The conviction rate of terrorist settlers, if they actually did it, they go to jail. What's your point? The conviction rate for Palestinian terrorists is so high because when they commit acts of terrorism, they can commit them against military personnel that serve as witnesses in court.
Yeah. Torture is going on in these prisons. Mass rape is happening in these prisons.
Prove it.
And we have
Prove
like
it.
Zionist
Prove it.
terrorists
Prove
that
it.
are like,
Prove it.
yeah, they stormed. They're trying to free the people that are being interrogated for the mass rape.
Yeah, you mean the people that where a doctor did an analysis on the person that allegedly was assaulted and found that it was self-inflicted? Is that what you're talking about? You're talking about the situation that has no evidence outside of the analysis that was done that proved that it was self-inflicted. Those people were rioting because they didn't believe the people that were accused were guilty, not because they thought that rape was okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens when Nazis investigate themselves. They tend to, not find anything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have a real
See,
argument
it's
or no?
it's not
What do you
the
want them to do?
Palestinian
What
terrorists.
do you want
It's
them
the
to do?
Palestinians in general have a 99%.
Who would you be satisfied with
They don't have any
investigating them?
charges. Many of them.
Who would you be What do you mean? Settler terrorists get arrested all the time. Soldiers get convicted of things all the time. Like a good example of this is the Kfar Qasim massacre in 1956, just as the Suez Canal crisis was happening, right? What happened was the Israeli government, the IDF, put some soldiers outside of this village on a fire on-site order after they put a curfew in place. But the laborers in the neighboring village didn't possibly have enough time to hear about the curfew order, okay, and they violated the curfew order. The Israelis, for reference, believed that Jordan was going to invade them, so they believed that these people were Jordanian invaders, so they gunned them down. Turns out they were Arab laborers. They were Israeli citizens, and they killed them, 40 people. But what did Israel do when this happened? They convicted all of the soldiers involved. They amended the law with the Supreme Court to allow soldiers to disobey patently immoral or illegal law orders. And on top of that, now they teach about that massacre in Israeli middle schools so that people, when they're mandatorily conscripted into the military, know when they could or should disobey military orders. Golda Meir also famously remarked that if Arabs held themselves to the same standards that Israelis do when it comes to like the times that they make mistakes, the Middle East would not be in the state that it's in.
Okay.
So what's your next argument? You're very fired up and you have absolutely no information.
Oh, really? Okay. How do you prove that?
Because you haven't provided a single tangible argument or source for anything you've said.
I said 99% conviction rate. They're turrets that line the Gaza Strip.
Yeah,
Like,
okay,
remote
yeah. And I
control,
already told you the
anyone.
reason the conviction rate is so high is
They
because
can't even leave their
when
city.
terrorists
That sounds like freedom
when
to you. That's
terrorists
like
take
democracy.
acts against fucking Israeli soldiers, they serve as witness in court, right? You'll have a high conviction rate too when you're convicting people who
Israeli
commit
terrorist acts? Are those okay? Is that a double
They
standard
go
there
to
I'm seeing?
jail when settlers commit crimes against people in the
What
West
about
Bank.
Netanyahu? Does he need to go to jail?
What did Netanyahu do that would send him to jail?
Genocide. 186 dead.
Yeah, that's based on
Gaza.
that the indirect death study that Hamas themselves debunked.
Yeah, because it turns out if you don't have hospitals, a lot of people are going to die.
Wait. Hamas themselves factor indirect deaths into their death toll. They just released a report like a month ago where they factor in indirect deaths and they still leave it at 38,000.
No, it's 186,000. So they're wrong.
No,
about
it's
it.
not.
So,
Hamas. Okay. So now you're saying that Hamas, the people that are on the Gaza Health Ministry, are incorrectly counting deaths. The study you're referencing is an estimate, and it's a wrong estimate.
how is it wrong?
Because it factors in, it's a guess. The author of the study admits that it's a guess based on indirect deaths, but Hamas themselves take into account indirect deaths in the death toll that they already report on. The Gaza Health Ministry, Hamas, the government of the Gaza Strip, their death toll accounts for indirect deaths, okay?
What is the direct and indirect numbers then?
Direct deaths are generally going to be deaths that are
No,
directly...
what do they list? What is their number that they list as indirect and then direct?
I don't
So you get
remember
both
the
categories.
exact numbers for direct or indirect, but it factors into the entire death toll.
Well, look it up then.
I don't have the report in front. Okay, fine.
I'll give you time.
I don't even know if they delineate between direct or indirect deaths. They just account for it in their death toll. They don't delineate between combatants or non-combatants either. I don't know that they have like an exact number for direct or indirect. But what you're referencing is the Lancet study. They don't list direct or indirect deaths. They just say that they account for indirect deaths in their death count.
Yeah, like people need like cancer treatment, maybe like giving birth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's just count every normal death that would have happened regardless of the war in the death toll too. That doesn't make any fucking sense. That's what the Lancet study does. Oh yeah, he died of cancer. Must be an indirect death of the war. Okay.
Yeah, because you don't have hospitals. Like, turns out people need hospitals.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Oh yeah, and you should be blaming Hamas for that because they're the ones who use the hospitals as military bases, resulting in them getting bombed.
Well,
That's
you know
not
what?
Israel's fault. You should be mad at Hamas for
I
that.
support these Hamas leaders going to the ICJ.
Oh, you support the Hamas
for criminal
leaders?
court.
Whoa.
Yeah, with Netanyahu. Let's do it.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's how these things are, like the Nuremberg trial for the Nazis.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
they need.
but what you're failing to realize is that international law is unenforceable, and neither Hamas nor Benjamin Netanyahu will ever go to international criminal court because the only way to enforce international law is to occupy the person that you allege international law violations against. It's the only way that you can do it. We did it with the Nuremberg trials after World War II. That's the only way it's going to happen. Unfortunately, there's no enforcement mechanism, and the law is only as valid as its enforcement mechanism.
I actually kind of, I know I see what you're saying.
You what?
And yeah, 'cause like in the Nuremberg, right, we were
occupied
taking
Berlin.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
We and bombed Dresden. Do you support the bombing of Dresden? How it was done?
I don't really care. I don't think it's relevant to this.
You don't care. Of course, you don't think it's relevant.
No, it's not
That's
relevant
collective
to this
punishment. It's
conversation.
war crimes. So you don't care about war crimes. We know.
Wait. Are you talking about? Yeah. I don't support the Nazis, dumbass. I'm just saying that I'm not a World War II expert, nor is it relevant to the discussion about what Israel's doing right now. That's what the discussion is about. No.
Time to read about World War II and one, especially one, because that's where I just got to my book is World War I. I haven't started it yet.
Okay. What happened? What happened after World War One?
I haven't read World War One yet. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Great. So you have no idea what happened after World War One. The Ottoman Empire collapsed,
More about
and
World War
the
II.
Palestinian
A lot of
region
people don't know
descended
about World
into.
War
Okay, dude. So are you making an actual argument, or I'm just gonna cycle?
No, not anymore. I got my friend from the column.
Okay, cycling.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
I like it up.
I'm going. Oh.
Hello. Are you anti-Israel? What's up, people? Hello? Heard a lot of screaming for a second. No, I don't hear anything.
The Jerusalem Post reached out to the Lancet asking them about this study. Here's what they wrote.
Okay.
The Lancet responded by saying that the letter was published in the correspondence section of the Lancet by external authors. The 186,000 figure and corresponding 7.9% are estimates explained in this paragraph of the correspondence. In recent conflicts, such indirect deaths range from 3 to 15 times the number of direct deaths. Applying a conservative estimate of 4 indirect deaths per 1 direct death to the 37,396 deaths reported is not implausible to estimate that up to 186,000 or even more deaths could be attributed to the current conflict using the Gaza Strip population, blah, 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 it goes on. So it's an estimate based on no actual evidence.
Yeah.
It's just an estimate.
Exactly. Yeah, and also, like, they're already like making this estimate based on a false premise. They're making the estimate based on the idea that if 38,000 is just the direct death count, then based on previous conflicts, the indirect death count would be X amount times higher than that, but totally failing to realize the fact that Hamas accounts for indirect deaths in their death toll. So,
and they also admitted in the letter to the Jerusalem Post that many of these indirect deaths may not have yet occurred.
oh really?
Armed conflicts have indirect health implications beyond the direct harm from violence. Even if the conflict ends immediately, there will continue to be many indirect deaths in the coming months and years.
So I got a question. How do you guys know, like, what evidence do you have that Hamas is altering the Gaza Administration of Health numbers? And
Yeah,
the
so
death toll?
Dr. Abraham Weiner did
Evidence,
a Dr. Abraham Weiner, professor of data science and statistics, did a study on this the death toll back in February based on the reported Hamas numbers, and what he found was that it was statistically impossible. It increases with almost exact metronomic linearity every single day, 270 give or take 15%. Some days should be twice or more the average, and some days should be half or less. There should also be a strong correlation between the deaths of women and men, but there isn't. There's a negative correlation. Should be a strong correlation between the deaths of women and children, but there isn't. There's no correlation. On top of that, the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers seem to indicate that there are no non-combatant men dying, or very few non-combatant men dying, which is again statistically impossible. So what were you going to say?
Physically impossible. So
Statistically impossible.
Statistically impossible. Gotcha. So you would say that it's the numbers 40,000. It's literally statistically impossible for a population of 2 million to have 40,000 deaths.
Nobody's
Well,
saying that.
what he's saying.
Nobody's saying
You're
that.
That's
We're
what you
saying
just
based
said.
on their reporting, the numbers they have reported, the demographics, and the way they're reporting it is statistically impossible for it to have gone down the way that they're claiming it's gone down.
Estates. that need to be passed on.
So
That's
listen
what
to me
it's all
again
about.
slowly when I say
No,
this.
you can listen to me and let me talk. How
No,
about that?
this is my live.
No, you
I'm
let
going to
me
respond. Yep, I'm going to respond to what you
Respond to
said.
yourself. Go ahead,
Go
respond to
ahead.
yourself.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
you
Go ahead.
Respond
Go
to
ahead.
yourself. Right,
Okay,
right, you like
great.
hearing yourself talk. Go ahead.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Perfect. I do. I love hearing myself talk. So anyway,
What you do,
listen to me
asshole?
slowly when I say this.
Speak
The
faster.
death toll increases with almost exact metronomic linearity. 270 people, give or
Define
take
metronomic.
15. Metronomic
spell it.
linearity, steady. Metronomic
So
is going to be a measure of how steady
it's
something
steady
goes.
rate. Congratulations. Okay,
Okay,
good.
great. So it goes up with almost exact metronomic linearity, 270, give or take 15% every single day, at a very steady pace. If you look at any other armed conflict, the death toll some days is twice the average, some days is half or less the average, and some days nobody gets killed. But in Gaza, every single day, 270, give or take 15%, people die. Doesn't make sense. It's statistically impossible. Not only that, there's no correlation between the deaths of women and children. There's a negative correlation between the deaths of women and men, and somehow no non-combatant men are dying. So why are no non-combatant men dying? Are Israel's missiles so precise that they're just killing women and children and not killing any men?
No, I don't think they're killing almost any Hamas members. They're in the tunnels.
Okay.
How many do you think
Hamas
they-
themselves admit that they're killing militants. So in February it was
Yeah, but
6,000.
they've
So
also. You would deny that the recent
You would just be
statement
wrong.
I've made this month that they went ahead and said, "Hey, you guys have killed less than 2,000 of our troops."
that's not true because in February they said 6,000. You're just lying.
Yeah,
They just said that they have 8 battalions still, bro.
that's
They-
not what
they
they
used
said.
out
They
of-
said no, they didn't.
All the battalions, you killed
Who's
2.
they? Who's they? The
Hamas.
CNN article?
Oh my God!
The CNN article?
You
That
say
the
that
IDF
CNN
rejects?
is you're going to refute CNN's reporting, particularly on the Sid Taman
Yeah,
concentration camp.
they acknowledge in their reporting that it has nothing. They had no one on the ground to retrieve the evidence. It's all speculation.
No, there was literally a person who went there
No, there wasn't.
and walked
What was
through
his
the
name?
camp. That
What
was
was
what
his
the
name?
article was about.
What was his name?
I don't remember the name of the guy who wrote the CNN article,
He
douchebag.
wasn't on the ground.
He was literally on the ground. He went
Dude,
in the camp.
he
That's
acknowledged.
why
that
they
he-
arrested those soldiers, because
they
they
used
were
outside
actively
sources.
being investigated.
They used outside
So
sources.
You're
They
just
used
gonna
outside
say you're
sources.
just probably gonna say that video is like fake or something.
What
I'm
video
not
are you
saying
talking
it was
about?
fake. I'm not saying that. I'm
You
saying that the
really
people
don't
that
know
did the
about the
report
video that just came out of Sid Taman.
acknowledge
You
that
have
they're
no
not on the
idea.
ground.
You're talking
You
about
have
the
no
prison
idea.
video that you can't see literally anything in?
Oh, really? Yeah, because what do the soldiers do?
You
Go
can't
ahead
tell.
and tell
You
me
can't
about
tell what they're
what
doing.
happens in
You
the
can't tell what they're doing. It's
Go
like
ahead and
360p.
You can't tell. Wait, say that again.
It's like 360p. You can't see anything in it.
What happens in it? Tell me.
We don't know because nothing. You can't
No,
see
no, tell me
anything.
what happens
And there's
in the
already
video.
been
It's on the video,
investigations
right?
into it, and they found out that the
Well,
wounds
you
were
fucking say it.
self-inflicted.
Go ahead and tell me what happened.
You
What
can't
happens
tell.
in the video?
You can't tell.
What
You
happens?
can't see anything in the video.
Describe what happens. Just
It looks like
describe
there's
it.
a soldier and a shield
How
wall.
many of them?
I don't know, like maybe 7.
And what do?
They have shields up, and that's all you can see.
What do they do before the shields?
You see another video of them with a prisoner, and then the prisoner isn't in the next video. So
Wait, what? No, that is a straight line. It is a
go
continuous.
watch the video. Go watch the
No,
video.
you-
It's not a continuous
Oh my
video.
God.
It literally cuts.
You might have seen a cut of it on the news to go ahead and
No,
zero
I've never
in.
seen a video that's
Just because
that's
you've never
continuous.
seen the continuous,
Yeah,
the
never seen
continuous
it.
cut.
It's not. It's an
Man,
edited
that's on
video
you,
because
buddy.
it's two
They
different
took him right
cameras.
off the floor.
Yeah, there's two.
They're
Exactly.
laying-
That's what I'm saying. There's two
they're
different
laying
cameras.
on the floor, handcuffed to the
Two
ground.
different cameras. And by the way,
One camera in a
way,
zoomed angle. You
here's
guys
the
are
difference.
lying.
Here's the difference.
Wow.
Here's the difference
Good job
between.
lying
Here's
straight
you're
the
gonna
up.
get kicked.
difference. Here's the difference.
You're a liar.
Here's the difference between Israel and the Palestinian. When our soldiers or our people do wrong, we investigate.
They
Why
go
don't
ahead
you
and
stop
argue
talking?
this in the
Why don't you
Knesset.
stop
The Knesset will
talking?
argue that
Why
they
don't
can
you stop
torture them
talking?
any way they
Why
want.
don't you stop
The
talking
Knesset
and
will
let someone
argue
else
that they
talk?
can rape them if they want.
Goodbye.
Is this what happens when your mom doesn't give you enough love? You come on TikTok lives and whine like a baby and can't engage in an adult conversation? Like, seriously. You know what? 90% of you people who come up here and talk about this stuff, instead of coming up on TikTok, go to a therapist. Seriously, you guys are all just children. Your parents didn't give you enough love and attention, and you come up here just begging. Look at me, look at me. You can't have a conversation. What are you doing coming up here? You're having a temper tantrum? Like, seriously? Or if you're not having temper tantrum, you're like people in the comment section who stalk people? Like, what's going on? You guys are just nutty. Engage in an adult conversation. You don't have to agree with us. Do you think any of us care if you agree with Israel? You think it matters? But if you can't even engage in an adult conversation with a back and forth where you remain silent for more than 6 seconds before you poop your pants, like, relax. Relax.
All right, let's see who's next. Hello.
Hey, what's going on, fam? Hey, no, I've watched your stuff for a long time, and I've been watching King Hebrew with Nick for a really long time, and I've talked to them a handful of times on their lives. I just love how everyone wants to bring up how Israel is not doing a great job at prosecuting, or holding accountable the IDF soldiers, but yet no one wants to even think about what's about to happen with Hamas killing and injuring 2 of the hostages that they posted about on their Telegram and their supposed internal
them down.
investigation.
Unarmed hostages they gunned down.
Yeah, and they claim they're going to have an internal investigation. Like,
Yeah.
What investigation? No one's going to be held accountable for it. If anything, those people that perpetrated this incident are going to be given a promotion.
Right.
Like, I don't see how they can't understand the difference between, Israel actually holding these people accountable, and then you have people like H Group who are just like, oh, good job. Like, give me a break.
Listen, here's a big difference. And I was trying to get to this point with the last guy. And by no means is Israel perfect. There's certainly room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But when soldiers or citizens commit crimes or acts of terrorism, in the case of the Jews and Judeans, criminals commit SA, they turn them into prophets. So, it's a big difference. Big difference. We don't have SAing prophets.
I appreciate you coming up, man. I'm going to cycle down to some to a pro-Palestinian person or a pro-anti-Israel person, whatever. Hello, are you anti-Israel?
I'm here to say how the USA and Israel are funding a complete genocide.
Okay, why do you think it's a genocide?
First of all, if you read the history and you read, if you best take your time to read, you would think how Palestine was complete.
You cut in and out, dude. You got to start again.
Okay, let me explain to you guys something.
Just start from the top. It's just you're
Okay, you can't hide the fact that you guys witnessed on live television a Palestinian civilian, an innocent civilian, being awed by a
Start from the beginning. What you were saying before. Say what you said before about us knowing the history. Go back to that. What was that about?
What history don't we know?
I want you to teach me the history. I'm here to learn.
Back in 1946, Palestine was one state until the Ottoman Empire
Who was the ruler
and
of
the
it?
British and the British.
Who was the ruler?
The Ottoman Empire.
The Ottoman Empire fell in 1917.
But Israel was one state until the British decided to come and cut it in
Wait a
half.
second, hold on. You just said it was the Ottoman Empire, but there was no Ottoman Empire. So how could that be?
But if you read the books, it proves that.
Which book did you read to get that information? Which book
I read
did
the
you
Quran, the Holy Book.
That has nothing to do with anything that happened in the 18th or 19th or 20th
Yeah, by the way, I
centuries.
can guarantee you the Quran did not talk about the Ottomans.
It was written before the Ottomans existed, man.
Okay, but sir, did you just skip the fact that on live television, an innocent Palestinian
Wait, I want you to
civilian.
teach us.
He wasn't
history.
innocent.
You
First
did a
of
job.
all, the jury is out on whether that actually happened or not. Second of all, there was an investigation into these soldiers. They were taken into custody, and not only that, it wasn't an innocent Palestinian civilian. So stop lying. He was a member of the elite Hamas Nakba force that was responsible for October 7th. So not an innocent Israeli Palestinian civilian. First of all, and second of all, jury's out on whether it actually happened yet. We don't have enough information. There have been preliminary reports that it was self-inflicted.
Yeah.
But listen, if your country's in an active war against Palestine, or against against the H group, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to. They're obviously going to agree with their own government. That's corrupt. Israel's corrupt.
That's not true. Listen, if that was true, so Israel, just like the United States, has a military prison, a prison that is specifically for soldiers who violate and are convicted of violating the military code of conduct. Okay, United States, it's Fort Leavenworth. It's in Kansas. Israel has their own version of Fort Leavenworth. If what you're saying is true, that jail would be empty, except that jail has people in it. So how did those people get convicted if Israel is only favoring itself?
Okay, surely they're a part of that group.
Just do me a favor and answer my specific question. Could you just do that for me, please?
Sorry, repeat what you said.
Israel has a military prison where soldiers who break the military code of conduct and are convicted go to serve out their sentences. It's quite full. So, if what you said is true, that they're automatically going to side with their side because they're Israelis, then how come the Israeli prison for soldiers has people in it? If what you're saying is true, it would be empty.
Okay, that's understandable.
And on top of that, Israel's also sent their own presidents to prison before, Jewish presidents. And ironically, the person who sentenced the last Jewish president who went to prison, Moshe Katsav, to jail, was who? George Kara, an Arab Israeli Supreme Court justice, not a Jew, an Arab.
But listen, explain to me why 40,000 innocent civilians...
Wait, why are you skipping past that point? Yeah. Will you acknowledge that you were wrong?
I might have been wrong, but explain to me why 40,000 innocent civilians were killed.
They're not innocent.
They were told to go to Rafah.
They're not all innocent. Wait, are you saying out of the 40,000, there's 0 Hamas members?
No, I mean, unless you can prove that there's a Hamas member, you can't say that.
Yeah, Hamas themselves reported that 6,000 of the people reported in the death toll
that was in February.
members of Hamas, and that was in February.
That was in February.
Okay, but listen, explain to me why.
Did you just hear what he said? What did he just say?
Explain to me why Israel.
What did he just say?
Explain to me why Israel.
What
told
did he just
At the
say?
time, that was roughly half the members, half the people that had been killed.
Let's see if you were listening to him. Wait, let's see if you were listening. What did he just say?
I didn't really hear because there was too much commotion.
So what you're saying to everybody here is you're not actually here to listen and engage in a conversation. You're just vomiting out words.
Sorry.
And then when we respond, you're not actually paying attention.
Okay,
he just said to you that Hamas admitted in February, and they have every reason to undersell the number, but they just said in February, which is 6 months ago, 6 months ago, that 6,000 Hamas members by Hamas said it. So now your 40,000 is down to 34,000.
And at the time, that was almost half the death toll, by the way.
Right, and that was back in February. So it's probably closer to 15,000, which is what the IDF estimates. So now we're down to 25,000. Okay, so not 40,000. Okay, and now we also have to account for the fact that the Gaza Ministry of Health is including natural deaths in the death toll. So someone who just dies of old age, they're putting down as a war death.
Okay,
there's about 1,000 to 2,000 people a month die in Gaza from just being old in any given month in normal times. So if you take 1,000 natural deaths a month for the last 10 months, that's another 10,000. So now we're down to 15,000.
Yeah, but I don't think they died just because of them being old. I think it's the fact
nobody dies from being old in Gaza. They have the fountain of youth.
I mean, that's a very.
They drink a lot of Zamzam water, right?
But let me.
Do they drink a lot of Zamzam water?
Sir, let me explain to you the reason. Israel, they're living a terrible life. They're living in sand and gravel.
Wait. Do you know what the life expectancy was in Gaza before the war started?
Yeah, but I'm talking about now.
It was more than a single year higher than America's life expectancy, by the way.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, as of right now, Israel's cutting all aid.
Not true. Israel provides more aid than any other country. They let in roughly 200 trucks per day, somewhere from 170 to 200 trucks per day, and they survive off of 3,000 plus calorie per person per day. So the idea that Israel doesn't allow aid in is bullshit. I don't consume 3,000 calories per day. I would struggle to consume 3,000.
Not me, I do. No problem. It's a couple donuts. Look, so let's get back to these people that aren't dying in Gaza from old age. Like, you understand that in every culture, people die every month, right, from old age.
Yeah, I understand.
So why would you include that in the death toll for the war? They were going to die anyways.
Yeah, but they died earlier, right?
There's no indication of that. They're not separating it out. That's the problem. They're just throwing out a number and letting people like you run with it. But we don't know. There's people in their 70s and 80s in Gaza that were going to die no matter what. I mean, that's what happens when you get old.
Well, I mean, but you have to understand the fact that, first of all, is just because they're dying to old age doesn't ignore the fact that they're not given the resources of a normal person.
I think the fact that their life has been, and I won't deny this, their lives have been dramatically altered, and it's certainly worse than it was prior to October 7th, which to me is the strongest argument for you advocating for Hamas to surrender and release our hostages. If they surrender and release the hostages, the war ends. Israel leaves. Until then, Israel's not going anywhere.
Listen, because the thing is, the reason why Hamas is scared to surrender hostages, because we all know, and trust me, you know this, Israel's going to annex Gaza. And that's
no, they're not. Israel's got no interest in Gaza.
Yeah, Israel has
we
never
were
wanted
already in Gaza, and we left
in 2005.
Yeah,
Israel doesn't want to rule over predominantly Arab areas. They've never wanted to.
We don't want 2 million people that celebrated. We don't want to govern 2 million people that celebrated 10/7. We have no interest in that. None.
Yeah, but
none.
But let me explain you something. The reason.
You're going to explain to me something. Okay, good.
Let me explain something.
They're
gonna trust me. They're already trying to occupy their settlers, but we're just waiting for Iran to do what it's got to do.
Which is what? What does Iran have to do with Gaza?
I'm just saying, Iran. Just watch the news. Wait, and you'll see what Iran is.
We'll see what Iran is. They've been talking for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, but
Iran? Is this the same Iran that let the leader of Hamas get popped in their capital city 100 years from the president?
Or let his president fall out of the sky in a helicopter?
By the way, just out of curiosity, what do you think? Ismail, no, listen to this. This is a serious question. What do you think Ismail Haniyeh and his bodyguard were doing together in his bedroom at 2 a.m? Why was his bodyguard in his bedroom?
A bodyguard. Obviously Joe Biden.
In his bedroom?
Joe Biden sleeps with the Secret Service. Am I right or wrong?
Secret Service do not go in his bedroom.
They don't sleep in his bed, dude.
They don't sleep in his bedroom.
I'm pretty sure they do, sir. But,
no, they don't.
No, they don't. So you're saying when good old Uncle Joe and Dr. Jill want to get busy, the Secret Service is watching?
All right, so listen. Let me switch.
Wait, why are you switching the subject? What do you think his bodyguard was doing in his apartment?
His bodyguard was also sleeping. In Islam, there's something called, we're a brotherhood, we're a friendship.
Can man lay with man?
Were they sleeping in the same bed?
Who knows? They couldn't. They probably weren't sleeping. Yeah, he was probably jet lagged.
Were they cuddling?
Yeah, if they weren't sleeping, what were they doing?
Yeah, were they cuddling?
No, they were probably reading the Quran, the holy book.
They were reading the Quran at 2 a.m. together.
The homies are doing a Bible study in bed, bro.
Let me explain you something, sir.
Even you're laughing because you know it's not true.
Let me explain you something, sir. I hope Kamala Harris gets reelected, as well as their presidency. Let me explain to you why. Because Iran is developing nuclear weapons, and once Iran has nuclear weapons, it is over for Israel.
Why do you think they're going to launch nuclear weapons at Israel?
Of course they are.
Do you think would you agree with that?
Of course I do. Israel is.
Wait a second. You came on here. Just so everyone's clear. Just so we're all on the same page. I don't want to confuse anyone. Right? You came on here complaining about the non-genocide genocide in Gaza, and then 3 minutes later, you want Iran to wipe out all the Jews in Israel with a nuclear weapon. Do you see how there's a disconnect between those two positions?
Now you're being hypocritical. Because
How is he
I'm being hypocritical. You complained about a genocide and then called for a genocide.
But what is Israel doing to Gaza right now?
What does that have to do with Iran?
They're wiping out all Arabs.
What
No,
does
they're
that
not.
have to do with
There are
Iran
Arab
beating
Israeli
Israel?
citizens with full rights.
Sorry, what did you say?
There are Arab Israelis that have full rights in
No, I
Israel.
heard what you said.
That's
I was
nothing to do
wondering
there.
what you said.
Okay, what did you say, Hebrew?
Last question for you, and then I'm going to jump off here. I gotta make a couple phone calls.
What's
do
up,
you
sir?
do you think Ismail Haniyeh was the big spoon or the little spoon?
Israel Hani. I mean, what do you mean by that?
What I mean is, when he was cuddling with his bodyguard, do you think he was on the outside of the cuddle or was he on the inside?
I mean, sir, we're not talking about that right now, sir. And you're disrespecting the holy book, the Quran, bro.
I didn't say anything about the Quran.
Yeah, that they were reading in bed together.
I didn't say anything about the Quran. I asked you about Ismail Haniyeh.
I mean, sir, how do you know they were in the same room? They couldn't have been on a different room.
Because only one room got blown up and the bodyguard died.
Yeah, but how do you know the bodyguard? Can we confirm that the bodyguard died? Can we confirm?
Yes, we confirmed the bodyguard died.
But there's no way to prove that, sir. He could still be alive. Ismail
He's
Haniyeh
not.
could still
He's
be alive.
dead.
He's not alive. He's dead. They announced his death.
The Islamic Republic of Iran is coming. They vowed retaliation.
Yeah, someone was coming that night, I'm sure.
All right, sir. Now you're being a little disrespectful right now.
Go. Bye.
All right. I'm gonna cycle you down, man, and we'll bring up.
So let me
somebody
explain
else
you something.
Pro-Palestine. Oh man, that was good. All right.
What's going on?
Hi, how's it going? Are you anti-Israel?
Sure. I guess you can phrase it like that.
Okay, why?
Just the argument's at apartheid, right? You get $100 if you prove it's.
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of drifted away from that, but yeah, if you want to talk about apartheid, I'm more than happy to talk about apartheid.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about it. So my first question, I guess, would be, what do you have like a specific definition for apartheid, or is there like any?
Yeah, I'm
criteria
gonna think that it's gonna be a system of racial domination that shows characteristic similarities to apartheid South Africa, considering that's where the term apartheid came from. It came from South Africa. That's the language that the South African white government used when they legislated it on their people. So it's gonna have to have pretty similar characteristics. Similarities. So, like, for example, South African society removed citizenship from all black people. They relegated them to Bantustans. They didn't allow them to vote in elections. They didn't allow them to do business outside their Bantustans. Bantustans made up 20% of the country. White people took 80%. So it's going to have to show some pretty similar characteristic similarities there in that respect.
Okay. All right. I get what you're saying. All right. Then I guess we can get into it. So, like, for specifics, I think the West Bank's a really good point to start on this. So, like, just in general, who would you say controls like the West Bank, or like whose territory is it?
Areas A are both administratively and security-wise controlled by the Palestinian Authority. In Areas B, the Palestinian Authority has administrative control, and there's joint Israeli and Palestinian security control. And then Area C is Israeli territory.
Okay. So for this example, I'll focus specifically just on C. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for the specific Israeli-controlled West Bank, are you familiar with some of the differences in the ways that like Palestinians and Israelis are governed there, or you want me to kind of get into it?
So Israelis are treated as Israeli citizens, and Palestinians are treated as Palestinian citizens.
Yeah. So, but exactly, even in that sense, they have different laws guiding the two, right? As
Yes.
the Palestinians are guided by.
But what the difference is here is this is a nationality question, not a racial question, right? Palestinian is not a race, it is a nationality. Arab Israelis that live in Area C or live in Israel proper are given the exact same rights as Jewish citizens. They're allowed to vote, they're allowed to serve in government, they're allowed to buy land, they're allowed to own property, they're allowed to do whatever they want, they can work wherever they want. But if you are not a national of a country, then you are not given the same rights as a citizen. Like, for example, the United States isn't going to treat a Canadian citizen the same way that it treats an American citizen. That person is not going to have the ability to, like, say, buy land or vote in elections. Okay, with that being said, Israel routinely offers people living in Area C of the West Bank Israeli citizenship. Those people routinely reject it because the Palestinian Authority tells them that you cannot possess Palestinian citizenship and Israeli citizenship at the same time. If you take on Israeli citizenship, they will automatically revoke your Palestinian citizenship, which also causes a reduction in applicants, Palestinian applicants applying for Israeli citizenship.
Well, I'd almost contend that they even offer them citizenship as well, because a lot of it is just the stealing of land and the removal of homes and forcibly putting people out. Like, for example, in the West Bank recently, I'm sure you saw some of the protests in Chicago for the sale of new homes in the West Bank. As Israel has pushed further into some of these lands.
Israel's allowed to sell land in the West Bank because it's their territory, Area C at least of the West Bank. They don't sell property in areas A or B because it's not their land.
What defines that it's their land? That it's
the Oslo Accords.
Okay.
The Oslo Accords that the Palestinian leadership agreed to.
Who's the Palestinian leadership though?
The Palestinian Authority.
Who? Yeah, but elected by who? Chosen by who? It's a lot of the same things. People saying the Palestinians choose something.
They do. They have something called the Palestinian Legislative Council that works almost exactly like the Israeli Knesset. There are 120. I forget how many seats it has. I want to say it's like 127, but I feel like that's wrong. It has over 100 seats, and the people in different districts elect people, and based on the majority of the election, like whichever party gets the most seats gets the power, right? So in this case, it's going to be Fatah, which is essentially the Palestinian Liberation Organization run by Mahmoud Abbas. There was a rift in 2006 when Hamas won the majority of the seats, and then there was a civil war. But the Palestinian Authority is controlled by the Fatah and Mahmoud Abbas.
But yeah, and even contested elections is like you're saying though, with Hamas winning in, was it 2006? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think it's a very clear difference in the way that the people are treated, even though it's being occupied.
Yeah, there is a difference in the way that people are treated when they're citizens and not citizens. I don't see a problem there.
But it's not your country. It's not Israel's country.
Okay, whose country is it then? Who did that land belong to before Israel was there? Jurisdiction-wise, I'm not talking about private land ownership, because if Israel establishes their country, right? When Israel established their country, all Arabs living in the country just became citizens, and they were like allowed to keep their land and stuff. So, and not talking about private land ownership, I'm talking about jurisdiction. Like whose land was it? What state did it belong to? Who had jurisdiction?
I couldn't tell you. How far back are we going?
Just before Israel had it, the West Bank. Whose land was it?
Wasn't it Palestinian?
No, it wasn't Palestinian. It was Jordanian. After 1948, Jordan annexed the land. Prior to that, there was also no Palestinian state. The people living in the region before 1948 did not give a flying shit about national politics. They could care less. The majority of them were villagers. There were about 100 villages. There were only 17 Arab towns in the entire mandatory Palestine. Okay. But in terms of small villages, there were roughly 100, but they were agriculture-based villages, and most of the people who lived in them were totally illiterate. They couldn't read. They couldn't write. They didn't care about national politics. They cared only about their village, in the interests of their village, okay? They didn't have a national identity. People in the people in the villages viewed like national politics, or even regional and district politics, as like a sophisticated play toy of people living in the big cities like Jaffa and Jerusalem. Okay, so these towns, the 17 towns, which are just like the bigger towns, you know what I'm talking about, like Nablus, whatever, right? These towns were largely run by, while the villages were peasants, the towns were run by like Arab elite families called the Ayan, right? So like an example of this would be the Husseinis and the Khalidis living in Jerusalem. Okay. Usually their influence only stretched to their town, with maybe some slight influence outside of their town, sometimes in the district, depending, right? Except with the exception of like the Husseinis, who had large influence outside of Jerusalem, because Haj Amin al-Husseini was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, which came with some religious implications as well. Okay, so these people also largely didn't care about national politics. They cared about their family, their dependents, their town, and their district in that order, and they didn't really start to care about national politics until the Peel Commission in 1936. And then the Arab Revolt started. Parties formed by these elite families, the Ayan, and basically each party sent representatives. They formed the Arab High Commission, and and then people started to care more, but they kind of used the peasants for the rebellion, and that same thing with the war. So like these people had no sense of national identity at all.
I don't think that changes the effects of what Israel has done to the West.
Yeah, well, no. What I'm saying is it was a stateless society. You can't claim that the Palestinians had state jurisdiction over this area when they didn't have a state and they had no national identity.
It's not necessarily arguing that it's Palestinian land. It's apartheid.
Well, it absolutely is. You're saying that it's not their land. You're obviously talking about jurisdiction because you're talking about the Israeli government, right? You're saying that it's not their jurisdiction to have control there. But there was no jurisdiction. There was an absence of a state. There was a vacuum.
That's still a change in the treatment of the people. I don't know.
They didn't treat the people any differently. Arabs who remained in Israel after Israel's borders were established became citizens immediately, and they were treated just as Jewish citizens. There was Arabs in the Knesset, their parliament, from the moment that the Knesset existed. From the first day of Knesset, there were Arab members of the Knesset. From day one.
I'm trying to think of how to relate this to racial, because I think that's the hard part to prove for the segregation. Because you're arguing that essentially there's no difference then between the Israelis and like the Palestinian or Jordan like Arabs, right?
Yeah, there's no difference between Arab Israelis, there's no difference between Palestinian Arabs, and there's no difference between Jordanian Arabs either. Ironically, Jordan was actually part of the British Mandatory Palestine before Churchill cut it off in 1921. It was originally a part of Mandatory Palestine, and it was actually supposed to be given to the Jews until Churchill cut it off, and it effectively became the Arab Palestinian state run by the Hashemites. Which is also why during the Peel Commission, that land, when they were going to divide it up, was never going to go to like a new Palestinian state. It was supposed to be given to Jordan.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time to find a way to define the racial segregation between the two. But I don't know. That's my biggest hang up with the whole thing, you know, and like I've talked to you already about is just the treatment in the West Bank. I think especially too, the Israeli trying to almost like gather more land or just essentially conquer all.
I mean, they're not trying to gather more land. The Palestinians never had any land up until 1994 when the Israelis gave them land in the West Bank.
Well,
they never had it before.
I don't want to get into the whole history of it.
Well, I'm just saying, I think it's important because you're making claims like Israel just wants to keep land. All they've ever done is sacrifice land, right? They established their state in 1948 through a defensive war. Not only did they have to contend with a breakout of a civil war from Arab militias, but then the entire Arab League attacked them. 8 Arab countries went to war with Israel, and they creamed all of them, established their country. Then in 1967, a lot of those same exact countries, but not all of them, went to war with Israel again. They whipped their ass in 6 days and gained Sinai, they gained Gaza, they gained the West Bank, they gained the Golan Heights, and what did? They gave Sinai back to reach peace with Egypt. Now, what they didn't do is when Egypt invaded Israel, they didn't compromise and say, here, you can have Sinai back. They waited until the Egyptians, they kicked their ass in Yom Kippur again, waited till the Egyptians, Sadat, came back and said, I'm so sorry for going to war with you. Can I please have Sinai back? I will do anything for peace. And then they're like, okay, yeah. And like, you want peace? Here you go. You can have Sinai back, sure. And then they gave most of the Golan Heights back to Syria. They gave the West Bank, parts of the West Bank, to the Palestinian Authority in 1994 with the hopes of establishing an independent Palestinian state, which never happened because the Palestinians violated the agreement. And now they're in deadlock with areas A, B, and C. So like all Israel's ever done is like win land in defensive wars, sacrifice that land for peace, over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Well, I think the difficult part comes from having an ethnic or a like religious state. You know what I mean?
They're not a religious state. Early Zionism was secular. Their biggest challenge in establishing Israel was religious Jews. They were non-religious.
Where I don't think that still tends to be the case.
Well, not anymore because there was a big change in the way that religious Jews viewed the subject after the Yom Kippur War, but that was in the 1970s. Okay, so like prior to that point, the majority of Zionists and all of the people who established the Israeli state were for the most part secular Jews, totally diametrically opposed to religious Jews. Okay, so like the idea of religion just doesn't fundamentally work here at all. It had nothing to do with religion. The establishment of the Israeli state had nothing to do with religion. It was established as a secular state. They don't discriminate against people of different religions. So, yeah. And they also don't give special rights. The only like exception to this is like Jews make it easier for Jews to immigrate to Israel, but like that's not a differential treatment of citizens. That's just a differential treatment of foreigners. So like,
well, Jews and Israelis also have like easier means of travel. You know, easier times getting through checkpoints.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Arab Israelis are treated exactly as Jewish Israelis. They don't
only if you have an Israeli passport.
That's what a citizen is. Yeah.
But it's near impossible to get an Israeli passport
that's not true. 21%
as a Palestinian or a West Bank member.
That's not true either. 21% of Israel's population are Arabs. That's almost a quarter of everyone who lives in Israel is an Arab Israeli citizen.
That makes a whole lot of sense for a country in the middle of Arab countries, yeah? I mean, if anything, I'd say that's incredibly low.
That refutes your point.
No,
you're claiming that Israel treats Arabs differentially based on their race, and you're claiming that Arab Israelis have a harder time going through like Israeli checkpoints and stuff, which isn't true. Arab Israelis are treated exactly as Jewish Israelis. There is a difference between being an Israeli and being a Palestinian, i.e., Palestinians aren't Israelis, but not all Israelis are Jews.
The impossible thing to define is like a Jewish race, or like. That's the part where
it's not. Israel defines it very clearly. Anybody with one Jewish grandparent.
But it's just not. But there's no real way to define it. It's just
Israel defines it in their common law. Anybody with one or more Jewish grandparent is a Jew. This comes from the Nuremberg laws. Israel stole it from Germany because they decided that if anybody was Jewish enough to be killed by the Nazis in World War II, they were also Jewish enough to be an Israeli. So it's literally just the Nuremberg laws. Anybody who has one Jewish grandparent or more is a Jew and can immigrate to Israel.
Sorry, I don't know. The definition is just because then how do you define the Israeli race then? They're the Jewish race. It's just people who have direct ancestry.
Well, traditionally, it's if you have a Jewish mother. But in Israeli common law, it's if you have a Jewish grandparent. The reason that it is this way, that it goes based on who you descend from, is because Jews were exiled from the place that they came from, the Kingdom of Israel, Judea and Samaria, right? They were exiled from where they came from, and they were forced to procreate with people who were not Jews to keep their bloodline going. So they had to find a way that they would be able to like trace their lineage and maintain their Jewishness. So they just passed down cultural tradition and the bloodline through their mothers, okay? In the case of Israel, they just adopted the Nuremberg laws and decided that if you're Jewish enough to be killed by the Nazis, you're Jewish enough to live in Israel.
Yeah, I think that would be nearly impossible then to define for a
How would it be impossible? It's very easy. Have a Jewish grandparent, you're a Jew. Great. If not, you're not. In traditional Judaism, do you have a Jewish mother? Yeah. Oh, okay. Then you're not Jewish, or then you're Jewish. If you don't, then you're not Jewish. Very simple. Very easy. And that's for the ethnicity, like to be ethnically Jewish.
Yeah, but that's where it gets difficult though, because ethnicity is different than race, correct?
Nominally.
Regardless, it would then be impossible to prove the difference between a native Israeli or someone who lives there compared to a Palestinian or...
I don't know. We're just going in circles here. You're just not understanding. Yeah. Anyway, I just got a W in Fortnite. #1 victory royale while debating. Let's go WWWWW. Okay, let's go next person. Leanne. Leanne's loading in, and that was a crazy W too. I didn't even know that I was the last person. I was just running around in my car, smoked some girl, and boom. W. Yo, Tom, you were in here earlier, man. This person's not loading in, so we'll bring in the next person. What's up, Quadling?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. Listen, to be very clear, I'm not here to debate you because I agree with you. I'm here to match you. I'll put up another $100.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Perfect.
Because it is an absolutely bullshit argument. And I'm just going to reiterate really quickly for anybody that didn't hear. If you're an Israeli, you're an Israeli. Doesn't matter what race, doesn't matter what color, doesn't matter what creed, you're an Israeli. Period. End of story. Now,
yeah, exactly.
If you're not Israeli, I know this is really hard to understand, but if you're not Israeli, you're not Israeli. I know, crazy. How hard is that?
Exactly. And I don't know what he's talking about. Well, it just doesn't seem like that's a good way to, like, a way to that you could really track being Jewish. It's like, it actually seems like the easiest way physically possible. Like, what's the alternative?
God.
Blood quantum?
Yeah, like seriously, man, it's crazy. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you're here to debate, and I apologize. But like, in all seriousness, if you're Israeli, you're Israeli. Whatever you are, you're Israeli. If you are not Israeli, then you can become Israeli. You can become Jewish. You can. They are not necessarily the same thing. You can convert to Judaism. It's not easy. It's deliberately not easy. You can also ask to immigrate to Israel. It's been done by the thousands and tens of thousands. I remember the airlift when they brought over the Ethiopian Jews. Yep. They handed them Israeli passports. Here you go. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many Mizrahis, there's so many Falashas, there's so many Druze Christians, there's so many there's so many groups in Israel. It is literally the only melting pot in the Middle East.
I think what the distinction that a lot of people fail to make is that there's a difference between being a Jew and being an Israeli, and I think that a lot of people get them confused, and it's really stupid.
That's actually a very good point. And as a matter of fact, I'm in high tech. I'm in InfoSec. I work with a lot of Israelis. And some of them are Jewish, and lots of them are not. Okay?
Yeah, and there are tons of Jews in the world that are not Israelis.
I live in the U.S. I'm Jewish. I'm not Israeli. Could I emigrate to Israel? Yes. Do I want to? No, I have a house. I'm kind of comfy here,
Exactly.
Not my thing. Okay? But it's so crazy that people don't get it. And what bothers me, it's not so much the apartheid aspect, but honestly, it bothers me that they're so nearsighted in that there's so many conflicts around the world that are killing people of all races, including Muslim, including Arab, including whatever, but the only one that matters to them is the one in Israel right now.
Because it's the Jews.
And it just, as long as it's Jewish, don't believe them, lie about them, and call them horrible names. And by the way, send them death threats because I'm sure you're getting them, as am I.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I've already gotten to the point where everyone thinks I'm Jewish, so they just tell me like they wish I got Holocausted and shit like that. Like, it's like you don't realize how bad it is until they think you're a Jew, and then it's like,
I am Jewish, and I'm very blatant about that, and it's bad, dude. Yeah. Like, it's bad. Hey, listen, I don't want to keep you because you're here to debate, and I just want you to know I appreciate you. You're doing a wonderful thing. It is much appreciated. You're awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Somebody said they don't follow the Torah. Yeah, I mean, neither did all early Zionists, right? The entire founding of Israel is based on not following the Torah. What's your point?
Hello.
Hello.
If I prove it, would you really give 100?
I will send you, if you can prove to me that Israel's an apartheid, I will send you $100 on whatever money app you use, Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal, whatever. Oh, nice. Except Zelle. I don't use Zelle, but
got it. So I did a quick search about this. Mm-hmm. If you look up Israeli nighttime raids, it's always Palestinian families and teenagers, and never Jewish or Israeli.
Yeah, well, let's use our context clues here and figure out why that might be. Could it possibly be because the people doing terror against Israelis aren't Israelis? Could that be why? Could it be because the Palestinians are the ones carrying out terror against Israelis?
No, it's randomized.
No, it's not randomized. They target people who are terrorists.
Not always. It's not. If you think that's how the Israeli justice system works.
Prove it.
Yeah, simple. Go to Google and type in.
No, burden of proof is on you. I'm not looking up anything. Burden of proof is on you. Provide a source. Burden of proof is on you.
Definitely. Here, let's see if I still.
Your specific claim was that they randomly raid villages. I want systematic evidence that they do this. Or they randomly raid houses. And it's not because they're terrorists. Or suspected terrorists. It's because they're random. And to be clear, we do this in America too. Like, we do nighttime no-knock warrants all the time in America. Now, I don't necessarily agree with those no-knock warrants, but we do them, certainly. We're also not dealing with a war on terror, so...
And I just proved it right there. Please send 100.
No, you didn't prove anything. You're going to need to provide a source with evidence of what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't hear you when you're on coffee break. If you're talking, nobody can hear you.
Okay, now I got it.
Okay.
I paste.
No.
In the
read the source. Can you read? Can you tell me what it says?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me who it's from and what it says. and prove to me that they're doing random raids on random houses for no reason other than it's fun for them or whatever you're claiming. And after this guy, I'm gonna. If there's any Zionists, can we get a Zionist to come up real quick? And
Okay, I'm
after
sorry,
this
I
guy,
forgot.
after I sweep this guy, I'm gonna go up and get a glass of water. So I'll need a Zionist to like step in for me and keep the stream going.
Okay, yeah, so simple. If you know apnews.com.
Yes, the Associated
So
Press.
yeah, I'm gonna go coffee break real quick. 1 second.
Okay. And I'm gonna need a confirmed claim, not them saying that it's alleged.
Time Israeli arrests haunts
wait.
Palestinian kids.
What's it
There's
called?
my proof.
What's the name?
Oh.
What's the headline? Real quick. What's the headline? I'll pull it up on my end.
Yeah, nighttime Israeli arrests haunt Palestinian kids, family. And my proof is being that this happens to Palestinians, but you can't find this happening to Jewish and Israeli families in Tel Aviv. Haifa, Jaffa.
Again, because people in Tel Aviv aren't carrying out terrorist attacks against Israel. Okay, so
So
let's
aren't
see
these
what this
kids?
says. So let's see what this says. You can't sleep in a bungalow. It's 3 a.m. The charges against those being arrested ranged from being in Israel without a permit to throwing stones or Molotov cocktails. So again, it's not without reason. It is because they committed crimes. Okay, so
Yeah, I'm gonna
who's a
delve
Zionist?
into
Who's a
that.
Zionist? Who's a Zionist in chat real quick? Just swept this guy. Gonna go up and grab a glass of water real quick. Host is biased. No shit, I'm biased. Obviously, I have a position. My thing is literally claiming that Israel doesn't have an apartheid. Tom, you're not a Zionist, are you? You didn't win, bro. I'm gonna need a Zionist real quick. Tom, did you say you're a Zionist?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. I'm gonna bring up this Yakub person. Just keep the stream going. You guys debate. Yakub, are you a Zionist?
No, I'm not.
Okay, great. You guys debate. I'm gonna go grab water.
Okay, tell me what is your a problem with Zionism?
So I'm not really discussing the problem with Zionism. It's more to discuss the apartheid side.
Okay. Tell me, where is the apartheid of citizens of Israel that are Arabs, not Palestinians, because Palestinians are not are not citizens of Israel.
Exactly. So here's the problem. Here's the confusion that many people have. I think we're discussing. We're not focusing on the heart of the problem, because Israel is controlling the West Bank, and
not entirely.
Not entirely.
Only area B and C.
Yes,
and B even just militarily.
Okay.
What is your point?
That under international law, that is occupation. That's why.
Not true. Wait, Israel gave.
That's not my opinion. That's
gave
not my
permission.
Opinion.
I can tell.
Okay, let me finish my point.
You want to finish your point, and after that I will come.
So, under international law, that's not my opinion. Under international law, and according to the whole international community, the West Bank and also Gaza are occupied territories. Again, that's not. I'm not just saying that. That's not my opinion. That's just a fact. And I know you guys deny it. I know that. But according to the whole world,
tell you why I deny it.
I know why you deny it. I know. I've heard the argument many times. But under that
What is the
assumption,
argument? Please tell me.
well, the West Bank is under military occupation by Israel.
What do you think the point of Zionists are for the claim of those lands?
What do you
mean? Tell me. Do how it called in English? Devil advocate. Devil advocate for me. what Zionists think, why Zionists think that this is their land. Like area B and C. Not why and even A. I will say A too. Why do you think they think so?
According to biblical reasons?
No. Militarily and otherwise.
But let me hello. So let me explain my point here. So as I said, discussing this apartheid situation, as I started out, so I'm trying not to give my opinion here because if we want to be objective, we have to look at right.
We're not trying to be objective.
I asked for you to devil advocate.
So that's the thing, of course.
I asked for him to devil advocate why Israel have a claim to the West Bank.
Why Israel has a claim?
Yeah. Why?
There are many reasons.
Israel
there are many
reasons. You know the other
religious
side.
Reasons, including religious reasons, but that's not relevant.
No, not religion.
That's
religious reasons.
relevant.
Wait, hold up. Tell me this. Answer me this. Why do the Palestinians have a jurisdictional claim to the West Bank?
Well, first of all, why do they have jurisdictional claim?
Yeah, that would be like government claim. Why do they have government claim to the West Bank?
Just for the same reason Israel has jurisdiction rights for jurisdiction in Israel.
No, because Israel had an established state in Israel. The Palestinians never had an established state in the West Bank.
Well, that's part of the conflict, but Israel didn't exist.
Israel.
And when they had the land,
before Israel,
and when they had the land, Israel are the ones.
Wait, are you both anti-Zionists?
No, I'm pro-Zionist. Even from the other meeting, I said that I'm a Zionist.
Well,
okay, so let's go back to the topic. Let's not veer off. So I'm just trying to stay back on the topic. And I think the main, you guys, your reason saying that there's no apartheid in Israel is because Israel is a democracy and Arabs have the same rights as Jews,
yes,
or as Israelis, and that's 100% right. You're completely right. But we're not talking about what's happening in Israel. The conflict is not happening in Israel.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happening in the West Bank.
So again, apartheid is going to be a form of racial domination that is characteristically similar to apartheid South Africa, which happened within the boundaries of South Africa, right? Shit, it's going to be pretty obvious that Israel, a country, is going to treat people who are not citizens of its country differently than its citizens. Every country does that. America does it. We don't treat Canadian citizens as if they're American citizens. They get treated differently. Israel routinely offers Palestinians living in Area C of the West Bank Israeli citizenship, and they reject it because the Palestinian Authority threatens them and tells them that they'll revoke their Palestinian citizenship.
Because Israel has no legal claim on the West Bank. It is occupied territory.
Yes, they have. Okay, I can get my point. I didn't get my point from before.
Please let me say my point. If we can agree on this, because there is international law, that's the arbiter.
Nobody cares about international law. Laws are only
laws
are only as good as their enforcement mechanism.
So is the law of the jungle then?
No. We can make moral judgments about what countries are doing, but laws are not finished. Laws are only as good as their enforcement mechanism, and international law has no enforcement mechanism.
More than that, my point was about international law. In the international law, when you get attacked by another country and have a claim on that, you have, if you get the land, you have a claim for that land because they attacked you. So, because of that, in the 67 war, they attacked us, and we got bombarded. And after 6
they
days,
attacked them. Absolutely,
yes.
The Arabs absolutely started the 1967 war.
That's not the narrative at all. Like, that's your narrative of the story.
No, that's what happened.
Israel is just defending itself, and people are attacking everyone.
Israel absolutely did defend itself. And Nasser, tell me this. Who was the president of Egypt at the time?
Abdel Nasser, Jamal Abdel Nasser.
Yes, Nasser. Okay, what was Nasser doing?
What do you mean doing?
What were Syria and Nasser doing at the time that led up to the war?
Trying to attack Israel? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, Syria was attacking Israel, first of all. There were plenty of skirmishes on the border with Syria. But bigger than that, Nasser built up his entire fucking military in the Sinai Peninsula on the Israeli border, and then told the entire Arab world. Wait, 1 second, because Jordan is kind of like an accidental player here, because Jordan didn't want to invade Israel. They just had no option because the entire Arab League was involved, and they signed a defensive pact with Egypt. Okay, Egypt was building up their entire military. Well, I don't know. Anyway, Egypt built up their entire military in the Sinai Peninsula on Israel's border, and then Gamal Abdel Nasser said, "I'm going to invade Israel and decimate all of the people there." Repeatedly, he said this. He said this in the years before the war. He said this in the days before the war. Okay, of course Israel fucking attacked them. Like, if they didn't, they wouldn't exist right now. Israel strafed over Egypt and destroyed 90% of their air force in the Sinai Peninsula. Now answer me this: why the fuck was 90% of their air force in the Sinai Peninsula if they weren't planning on attacking Israel? They were saying they were going to attack Israel. They built up their forces on Israel's border. Of course they were going to do it.
Well,
if they didn't want Israel to fuck, no, listen to this. If they didn't want Israel to kick their fucking teeth into the curb, they shouldn't have built their troops up on the border and said they were going to invade Israel. I'm sorry, like. You fucking get what you get.
First of all, so that's you're talking about a different subject, and
I'm not talking. I'm talking about the 1967 war, the 6-day war.
That's their borders. First of all, that's within their borders, so they have the right to.
Yes. So tell me this: if I build up, if I'm the dictator of the United States of America, and I build up my entire military in New York on the border to Canada, and then I say, "Hey, Canada, you better watch out because I'm about to invade you and kill all of your people and annihilate you as a state." Do you think that Canada has, a right to like maybe preemptively attack me because I've just told them that I'm going to dismantle their existence?
Well, so here's
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Okay, of course. If you say it like that, of course.
Well, that's how it happened.
That's my problem with your narrative. Is that Israel is this innocent angel state that just was attacked.
They're not an angel state.
No
Israel's
reason.
done things wrong.
For absolutely no reason.
Israel's done things wrong,
just,
and you know what they do when they do wrong things? They correct them. They send the people that do the wrong things to jail.
But the narrative is always Israel was attacked. Israel this.
Israel was attacked.
But the same thing. The other Arab nations can say also the same thing.
No, they can't because they're always the ones attacking.
The Palestinians were attacked.
No, they weren't. When were they attacked?
Well, from the start of this whole conflict.
Oh, really? 1948? Is that what you're talking about? Because in 1948, the Haganah, the precursor to the IDF, the organization that later became the IDF, the military of the Jewish Agency, had a strict doctrine of only defense. For the entire first phase of the war, their doctrine was defense. All they did was defend their own towns. It wasn't until May that they went on the offense.
Well, the Haganah...
Even more than that, you can go back to the pogroms.
We're known as T organizations.
No, they weren't. The Irgun and the Lehi were.
They're absolutely known
the
as
Lehi
T
and the Irgun were.
And they committed many T
no,
attacks
they didn't.
as well.
No, they didn't. Not the Haganah.
Really?
The Lehi and the Irgun did.
The Stern...
Wrong.
I can have just
the Stern gang is
I can say that was the Israeli.
The Stern gang.
Only one person.
The Stern gang was the Irgun. The Irgun were the Stern gang, right? And they weren't the Haganah. In fact, the Haganah hated the Irgun and the Lehi. Hated them. They were offshoots of the Haganah. They broke off. They were dissident groups.
The point is the Palestinians...
And I agree with you that they were terrorist organizations.
Okay, thank you. There were many acts of...
I would disagree, but okay.
Extreme violence against the Palestinians. So the Palestinians were also attacked.
No, they weren't. And also, not only that, do you know why the British considered the Lehi and the Irgun terrorist organizations? It wasn't because they were attacking Palestinians. It was because they were attacking the fucking British.
Of course, I know.
Yeah, so they weren't attacking Palestinians largely. They were attacking the British.
Of course, that's why they left.
The only time they were attacking Palestinians is when they went on the offense in the 1948 war.
Well, that's one of the main reasons.
Okay, so
the British were forced to.
What I'm concluding here is that you have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, of course, I have no idea. But okay, let's go back to the topic. You veered off the topic. If we go back to I think the crux of the issue is the occupation. And again, when I said that's not my opinion, and that's not really debatable, that's according to the Fourth Geneva Convention according to the United Nations and the
Hey,
whole
when was the
international
fourth? When was the
community.
Fourth Geneva Convention written, and when was it amended?
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
the date.
so it was written.
What
It
date
was
it?
it was
Tell
written
me.
and amended after Israel took possession of the West Bank. Meaning it
Okay.
doesn't apply to the situation, first of all.
Really?
And second of
Oh,
all,
how
international
convenient.
law is a joke because
How
it's not
convenient.
enforceable. Yeah,
How
you're
convenient.
right. It's
And more
very
than that,
convenient.
even with
Oh, man.
the Geneva
But
Convention,
see, that's the
Israel
thing. That's
is
very
in the right.
dishonest. That's very dishonest, man.
How is it dishonest?
So you're saying like the whole international community agrees that it's an occupation, a military occupation?
I don't agree with the international community. The international community is run by politicians who have their own biases.
Of course, of course. So that's the thing. We can't engage in honest discussions because we're not going from the same basis.
No, we can't
And-
engage. We can't engage in honest discussions because you're wrong about everything. You don't know anything. Like everything
So
you've
why
said
am
has
I
been
wrong?
wrong so far, and I've
Why
disproven
am I
everything you
wrong?
said.
So the whole world
Well, first
is
of all,
wrong?
you were wrong about the Irgun
The
and the
whole-
Leahy being members of the Haganah. They weren't. The Haganah hated them. Ben Gurion hated them. You were wrong about the Haganah carrying out terrorist attacks. They were purely defensive up until May of 1948. You were wrong
I
about.
said there were terrorist
You were
attacks.
wrong about
I
the
said-
1967
I
war.
said Jewish militias conducted terrorist attacks.
You said the Haganah.
Well, I said the Stern and
No, you said the Haganah, or I said the Haganah, and then you said the Haganah are responsible for terrorist attacks, and that was a lie. They're not. You said the Stern Gang, which is going to be referring to the Irgun, and the Irgun were a dissident group.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I meant.
Okay, so the Israeli
your point?
society
Like,
did not
you're not
support the
making a point.
Irgun.
You're not
Israeli
making a point.
society did not support the Irgun. The Jewish agency disdained them, and so did David Ben Gurion. Hated them. The Haganah
What are
did
you
not
talking
support
about?
them. In fact, one of the first things that Israel did after its establishment was dissolve the Irgun.
Who was the first Israeli prime minister?
David Ben Gurion.
Okay. And which organization was he affiliated
The
with?
Mapai Party.
Before the party.
He was
The militias. The militias. he was. he
the
was-
Haganah, which
Yeah.
later became the IDF, not the Irgun. He hated the Irgun. It was run by Begin. Okay, he
So you're saying
hated
the
the
Haganah
Irgun.
never did any.
No,
violence?
they had a strict policy of defensive action only up
you-
until May of 1948.
Okay, I disagree then. I
Well,
disagree.
based on what? Based on nothing?
No, I can.
Prove
we
it.
can do research. We can pull research and
Prove it. They had a strict policy of only defensive action. Their entire
Only
purpose was
defensive-
to defend
that's the
Israeli
thing. Well, of
settlements.
course, that's the thing. When you attack, you say it's defensive. So we can't agree on the. So that's
No,
just,
they didn't
that's
attack.
perspective.
No. You're
That's
not.
just
You're not
perspective.
understanding. You're not understanding. I'm not saying that the Haganah acted only defensively in that they carried out offenses through defense. What I'm telling you is they posted up at Jewish settlements and never participated in offensive battle. They only guarded. They had a strict policy of only guarding. That's what the Haganah did until May of 1948 when they went on the offense because the British pulled out. And the Arabs were actively attacking Jewish settlements. Before that, they
Okay.
were purely defensive. All they did was guard settlements.
Okay.
Okay?
So what's the point? What point? are you
My
making?
point is
I
you
don't
said
know
that
what
they
the
were
point- I don't know,
responsible for massacres, and they weren't. They were never on the offense.
I brought up the Stern and all other terrorists. Jewish
Yeah, the
terrorist
Stern Gang
organizations.
was not condoned by the Haganah or the Jewish agency. They hated them. They were a dissident group.
I can just say we are off topic.
Yeah, we're off topic, but let me just talk about. I'm trying to explain to you why this apartheid situation is effectively happening, and according to many also human rights organizations, there is apartheid in the occupied territory.
Okay, congratulations. Let's think for ourselves here. Make an argument.
No, that's so whenever I bring something, I'm
No,
not trying to
you're just mentioning other people's opinions.
Humanitarian organization
No.
like UNRWA, maybe.
You're just mentioning other people's opinions.
Human
When you
Rights
say,
Watch-
listen to me.
Human
When you
Rights
say,
Watch-
when you say,
Human Rights
well,
Watch-
no, shh. When you say, well, Human Rights Watch says that it's an apartheid, you're just saying that it's someone else's opinion that it's an apartheid.
Because
I don't
they're
give
on
a
the ground.
fuck.
You're not.
Hold up,
Are you
pause,
on the
pause,
ground?
pause. I don't care about other people's opinions, right? I care about your opinion. I want you to make an argument. I don't want you to use somebody else's argument. I want you to make an argument for yourself. Think with your head for a second and do some thinking for yourself. Stop being a sheep. Do your own research. Read a book. And to answer your question, no, I'm not on the ground, but I've read books.
I'm very well educated on this issue. So
Clearly not. What books have you read?
I can give you my own opinion, but the reason I thought giving credible sources, I thought that would
No.
back up my claims with evidence.
No,
but
it's not
clearly
evidence.
want
Saying
evidence.
somebody else's opinion is that it's an apartheid is not evidence
Well,
that it's an apartheid. That's an opinion.
Well, they're more credible than you. They're on the ground. You're not.
I don't need to be on the ground to tell you it's not an apartheid.
Whatever.
I can read books from people who have been on the ground.
They are more credible than you, because they are on the ground.
God.
But
make an argument that has a basis.
A basis. So their arguments have no basis, and yours have basis.
Well, I don't know what's in their arguments. You haven't told me.
They're more credible than you.
Oh, so their argument. The argument is just they say this. They're more credible.
You don't know what is out perspective. What is like.
I can give you my perspective. I can give you my opinion.
No, like perspective from the outside. This is what I'm saying. There's credibility even for them, and you saying otherwise is just stupid.
So okay, whatever. The reason I brought up, I said when I say the Palestinian territories are occupied, that's not my opinion. That's just a fact.
Yeah, based on what? Based on what?
Based on the United Nations.
Based on other people's opinions. Great. So make a real argument.
Based on.
All right, it's time to rotate. Goodbye. Next person. Next contender, please.
Just before that, I can say something.
Sure. Go ahead.
About your point that Israel wasn't established by religious people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's half truth, because a lot of Zionists were yarmulke with yarmulkes, and
Well,
more than that.
Well, yeah. So that's gonna be like traditional cultural stuff. So like like ultra orthodox religious.
Not even that. No, religious, not Chiloni. Religious.
Yeah, well, there were some religious Jews that were Zionists, but like a lot of religious Jews resented Zionism, and the founding members of Zionism were
you're
largely
talking
secular.
about ultra-orthodox. It's something else.
Well, not necessarily.
A lot of religious Jews even signed on the Declaration of Independence
Some did,
of
yes.
Israel. More yarmulke wearing Jews. Were signing that paper.
Secular Jews wear yarmulkes as well.
Secular.
Secular Jews wear yarmulkes as well. Like Theodor Herzl, for example, was a secular Jew. Wiseman was a secular Jew.
He didn't wear it. Not in maybe in ceremonies in like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which the declaration.
In religious ceremonies.
The signing.
But
exactly. Yeah, the signing was a ceremony.
Do.
The signing was a ceremony, but like what I'm saying is like religious Zionism, its roots, especially in the 1800s, were purely secular. Religious Jews were like one of the biggest obstacles.
Talk about like majority. There were the majority, but not entirely.
Not entirely, yeah, right. Of course,
it's not in black and white.
Of course. There's always exceptions, but the majority of it was non-religious. The entire idea of Zionism was to create a new Jew, and a lot of Zionists believed that in order to create a new Jew, you had to leave religion behind, because they believed that the source of Jews' weaknesses was their religion and their refusal to engage in conflict, and they felt that it was time to fight back. And a lot of religious Jews found serious issue with that.
It's an ideology only of the Mapaiics, only of the Mapai people, not even like they were like far left.
Well, this
if
idea,
we're talking about Israeli society, even then.
This idea comes like it goes way further back to like before the Mapai Party even existed. So like with Theodor Herzl.
Yeah, I'm saying that the association with that ideology was Mapai.
Yeah, but it started like way before Mapai or the Jewish Agency in general even existed. So.
I'm not saying that this is true. I'm totally with you with that. But what I'm saying, I can give you context. If you want context, like from a Jew who lives in Israel and also serving the IDF, I can be this man. So if I'm hopping on to your lives and you have a question or something, you can tell me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, how about this? What's your you serve in the IDF? What's your opinion on so that guy was talking about nighttime raids and or maybe it was the guy before him, like random nighttime raids where people the IDF just goes and randomly raids the houses in the middle of the night of random Palestinians. Tell me about that.
exactly like you said. First of all, Palestinians, they are not, they're not Israelis, and they live in area B and C. We have a right to investigate, first of all. Even, if there's a suspicion of them being violent, throwing rocks, Molotovs, you know the drill.
Of course.
And
so it's not just random. You don't just say, okay, we're going to raid this house tonight based on nothing. It's based on suspicion of crimes being committed.
Never. If I can say it with my perspective. My perspective is not. I'm not on the ground of Judaism area. I'm somewhere else. So
okay.
It's kind of not my you know.
Yeah, it's not your
my experiences.
Yeah, I got it. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, we'll bring up the next person real quick. Let's see, Justice.
Goodbye.
See. Oh, okay. See you later, man. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Hey.
Are you anti-Israel? You think it's an apartheid?
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on just international law, international standards.
Okay, so I'm going to need you to make a real argument here. International law is non-enforceable. Laws are only as good as their enforcement mechanism. You can enforce international law. So if you want to make an actual argument from like a moral perspective or from like any kind of evidentiary perspective, like South Africa did this, Israel's doing this, go ahead and make that case.
Sure. So apartheid. There is a legal definition for apartheid.
I think it's going to go past the legal definition. I'll let you read it, and I'll probably even agree with the legal definition. But I think that you're going to have to include aspects from apartheid South Africa. Like it's going to have to share some characteristic similarities. Not every form of racial domination or segregation is apartheid.
So actually, apartheid in South Africa. That's not used as a legal standard. I mean, certain aspects.
Yeah, I don't care about legal standards. I think that words mean things.
But apartheid is a legal term. That's the point.
It's a legal term because that's the legal language that white people in South Africa used when they oppressed black South Africans.
Yeah, but now
that's why it's a legal definition. Yeah,
but now it's been encoded.
Yeah, but it means something outside of international law that is not enforceable, right? International law is not enforceable. The only way to enforce international law is if you occupy a country that you levy allegations against.
So in international law, yes, it's not enforceable.
Yes.
But
so we're going to go based off of what words mean.
Certain countries are party to certain treaties, okay? And so they're binded by them. This includes Israel. So yes.
Okay, but we're not going to say, what we're not going to do is say apartheid is just racial segregation, because it's not just racial segregation.
It's not. It's a lot more than that, actually. If you want me to read out.
Go ahead and read it. Go ahead and read it.
Sure. Let me just pull it up. I don't want to make sure. So this is just summarized. But the Apartheid Convention defines the crime against humanity of apartheid as inhumane acts committed for the purpose of establishing and maintaining domination by one racial group of persons over any other racial group of persons, and systematically oppressing them. So that's kind of, the summary is quite long, but that's basically an executive summary of the crime of apartheid.
Sorry, can you read it again?
So the Apartheid Convention defines the crime against humanity of apartheid as inhumane acts committed for the purpose of establishing and maintaining domination by one racial group of persons over any other racial group of persons.
Yeah, so I'm not going to view just perpetrating any inhumane act, which is totally subjective, over another racial group as being apartheid. I'm going to need an all-out system of racial domination that resembles apartheid South Africa. So like apartheid South Africa, for example, unlike the United States of America during, like, let's say Jim Crow, totally stripped every black citizen of the country of their citizenship. They were no longer citizens of the country in which they were born in, okay? They weren't allowed to vote in elections. They weren't allowed to buy property. They weren't allowed to even live in areas that weren't Bantustans. They were relegated to 20% of the country. These Bantustans weren't allowed to do business outside of them. They weren't allowed to do anything. They were non-citizens. Okay. Totally second class based on their race. That's not happening in Israel. I argue that there's no racial segregation or differential treatment at all in Israel.
Okay, so it's hard. I mean, there are some comparisons to apartheid South Africa. However, there is a codified convention. So I think,
Okay,
I mean,
make your argument.
You can
Make your
choose.
argument
You can
then.
choose whatever
Make
you
your
want
argument
as a
then.
standard.
Make
You
your
can create your own
argument.
standard.
What does
if you
Israel
want.
do that fits that definition?
Okay, so first we have to understand that effectively the West Bank is under Israeli rule. I mean, it's pretty much
No, it's
part
not.
of Israel.
Wrong.
It is effectively under Israeli rule.
Which parts of the West Bank are under Israeli rule?
So all of it.
No, wrong.
yeah,
Areas A
so-
and B are under Palestinian administrative control,
Of course,
and Area C
they're
is
under
Israeli territory.
administrative control. However,
Yes.
Israel still controls those
No,
regions.
they don't. No, they don't. The Palestinian Authority fully controls Area A, and they have
Sure,
joint
sure.
security control over
Okay,
Area B, but they
okay.
civilly control the whole region.
Okay. When they have to go from one part of Area A to another part, do they have to go through Israeli checkpoints?
Yes, because
Yes.
Israel guards its own borders. Those checkpoints are in Area C, not in Areas A.
So they're surrounded by Israel, right? Is
Yes,
Area A
Israel
considered
has a
country?
shared border.
Is Area A considered a country?
It's not considered a
No.
country because the goal of the Oslo Accords that established areas A, B, and C was to establish a country, to establish a fully recognized Palestinian state. But then the Palestinians, what'd they do? They violated the agreement when they launched the Second Intifada and killed
also
over.
violated the agreement.
Not
They built new
finished. Not
settlements.
finished. No, they didn't. There hasn't been a new settlement built in over 20 years. The Israelis. The Palestinians violated the agreement when they launched the Second Intifada and killed 1,000 Israeli civilians. They attacked buses, malls, restaurants,
necessarily
shopping
violate
centers.
Oslo.
Absolutely, it does. If you have a peace agreement with a country and then you go and kill 1,000 civilians, that's absolutely a breach of the agreement. What the hell are you talking about?
No, so it wasn't led by the leaders who were
Yes, it
for
was.
example,
Yes, it was. The
he
person. This deal was brokered with Yasser Arafat, and then his wife.
He didn't lead. Okay, so
the deal was made with Yasser Arafat. He
Okay,
was the
we're
leader
going
of
off- first of all,
Fatah.
we're going off track.
No,
We're going
no,
off track.
we're not going off track. We are perfectly on track. The Oslo Accords were
Because we're talking
brokered.
about
Not
apartheid.
finished. Not finished. The Oslo Accords were brokered with the Palestinian Authority, formerly the PLO. Okay, who was the leader of the Palestinian Authority and the chairman of the PLO? Yasser Arafat. Okay, now after the 2000 Camp David negotiations to further establish the Palestinian state and bring to fruition the agreement made in the Oslo Accords with the United States, what did Yasser Arafat do? He was offered 70% of the West Bank and 100% of Gaza. What did he do? He rejected it all out, went home, and instructed Hamas to carry out the Second Intifada and killed over 1,000 Israeli civilians. If you don't believe me, you should believe his wife, Suha, who went on Dubai television and told the entire world that Yasser Arafat was the one who planned and executed the Second Intifada.
Okay, that's great. With Al-Aqsa Intifada, which started in 2000.
It's 2000. It went from 2000 to 2005.
Yeah, I said which started in 2000. Al-Aqsa Intifada started in 2000. Even before that, there was already violations of the Oslo Accords. Especially
What were they?
Sure, we can talk about it. But I really want to stay on apartheid.
No, what was it? No, what was it? What were the violations?
Let's look into it.
Do 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 boo do boo 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 Are we ever going to get that violation?
Yeah, just 1 second. Okay, perfect. So, according to Human Rights Watch,
yeah, I don't give a fuck what Human Rights Watch says. On to the next person. According to Human Rights Watch, because I can't form my own opinions. Hello.
Hi, hello. I would like to referring to a few points that you were talking about, you and the people that work here. So first of all, I'm an Israeli.
Okay.
And like I would like to clarify a few things that so many people don't understand where it came from. For example, Zionism, people don't understand the really meaning of it. Zionism comes from the word Zion. Zion, it's a Mount Zion, Mount in Jerusalem, in the holy place for all three religions, the Muslim, the Christian, and the Judaism, sits on the Mount Zion. So the word Zionism came from the longing and the wandering for the Jewish people that were living all over the world before the independence, and each year in after Yom Kippur, they were saying next year in the build Jerusalem. So that's where it came from, the word Zionism. Like it's the longing to come back to our holy place where we established many years ago. And it's funny because people took it like to something like extremist people. They are Zionism and they are like only looking for to do horrible things to the Palestinian and stuff like that. So
Well, it's not only that; it's also because Israelis were like being massacred in Europe at the same time, and they also had
yeah,
freedom,
of course,
so they just went
but the like the 100% like explanation is the longing for Zion, Mount Zion, the holiness places for the Judaism, and for other points like people were talking here. For example, can you give me some points that like were uploaded here?
I don't know. I've always have a hard time thinking of like their arguments. It's difficult when they're not presenting them to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's like what you said before, that when you grew up on some narrative, it doesn't matter which narrative. If you listen to like not facts, and if you're not looking and do a search for yourself to find all the facts by yourself, and even go by yourself to this place and try to understand, to see with your own eyes what is happening here.
Yeah,
like
man.
for example, and only then you'll understand the full picture. Because when you listen to the media and what people say on the media, like even here in TikTok, you have so many like false and misunderstood, like mistaken like explanation that people is like give to other all in this platform, if you understand what I'm saying. And then like what they're learning, like it's like based on half truth or many lies, and that's not learning. It's like
Yeah, man, totally. Well, I appreciate you coming up. I want to get some pro pallies in here and have a debate.
Okay.
But I appreciate you coming
Thank
up,
you
man.
very much.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, how's it going?
Hello, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever been to Palestine or Israel, whatever you want to call it?
No.
Okay, I have been there, and I'm just gonna share my experience, then leave. I'm not here to argue.
Okay.
We went, and there were hundreds of checkpoints.
Okay. I'm not contesting that there are checkpoints. Israel has checkpoints on its borders, as they have the right to do. The United States also has checkpoints on their border. Okay, that was the whole experience, I guess. Pro Pallies, request to join. Request to join Pro Pallies. If you are anti-Israel or believe that Israel is an apartheid, request to join. If we don't get somebody in 10 minutes, we'll probably end the live. Request to join if you think that Israel's an apartheid, guys. Come on, let's go. Come up and have a discussion. Borders do have checkpoints, that is the case, yep. Every country that has a border or most countries that have borders have checkpoints, and every country has borders. Any country that takes their border security seriously, at least, and in the Middle East, you have to take your border security seriously, especially if your country's name is Israel, because there are lots of people in the region who want to kill you. The government has an obligation to keep its people safe. How dare they? I know, right? Request to join if you think that Israel's an apartheid. We got 62 people watching. There should be, you know, a fair amount of people here on TikTok who disagree with me, I would assume, at least. So if you are anti-Israel, request to join, please. And if you have questions for me, you can ask them in the chat. Doesn't Israel have separate roads in the West Bank for settlers and Palestinians? There are roads. There are some roads that you can't go on if you're not an Israeli citizen. Sure. But look, I don't see the fundamental problem with this. Arabs are allowed to be Israeli citizens. Yeah, and it's literally agreed to by the Arabs as well. It's part of Oslo. Why is this guy rocking both sets of gauntlets? That's crazy. Alright guys, well, nobody joined, so we're going to end the live here. Maybe we'll be live later again. We'll be live tomorrow at 11 a.m. I go live every day at 11 a.m. So tomorrow we'll be live again. We'll be either talking about stuff or we'll be debating. So, yeah. How many dubs in Fort today? 3. We got 3 dubs in Fortnite while debating today. It's a pretty good day. Strong Fortnite dub day. So, yeah. Yeah, alright. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Sorry, guys. I'm glad to see, Sarbazak, I'm glad to see that you're watching on Twitch, because I had such a strong Twitch audience a couple of years ago. Fuck you. Why are you saying fuck you? I thought you were a fan. I see a Twitch comment and I get excited because I don't have a Twitch community right now. I did all the way back in like 2020 when I was going on Dylan Burns' show and debating with Destiny all the time, but now I don't have a Twitch following anymore. So Sarbazak, are you hate watching me on Twitch? Sarbazak? Are you Twitch hate watching me? I think you left. Alright, well, anyway, in any event, join us again at 11 tomorrow. I don't know you, bro. Oh, you're just... Okay, so what, are you hate watching, or what's the deal? Why'd you say no when I said I was ending it? Anyway, we'll end. I'll be here tomorrow at 11 a.m.